Good morning. It's Wednesday morning. It's 9 a.m. and I'm here with Norma Talks. And today, once more, I'm talking about acceptance, but a little bit differently, I think, and hopefully with some big answers. And I got a croak in my voice, and it seems like usual on Wednesday mornings in particular. Now, what I did yesterday, because I was thinking about this, as I got out my tarot cards, 78 of them, and asked through the tarot to find out about what's going on with this. What am I missing in acceptance? What's happening that I'm missing here? So this morning I have all over cards, some in a pile, some laid out, because it told me the story, which is one reason why I love these symbols, because they tell you a story. And some of it I have talked about just because I understand acceptance. At least I thought I understood acceptance totally. And the other way, I've tried to put them in order so I can figure out. But honestly, I have a lot of symbols on my desk, everywhere everywhere. Symbols galore. Now, let's talk about what moves us. First of all, let's say this. This is the love symbol, the Empress, showing love is everywhere. Number 3. So it's very early, saying everything is love. And then the issues begin. Where is that number 4 anyway? I don't know where he is, but it's following him is number 4, the experience card. Now, basically what happens is something happens in life. Something is told to us or whatever. And we go like this. We don't want it. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to accept it at all. Now, there's lots of symbols that show that. And I'm just going to show a few of them. There's this one. See how he's got his arms and legs folded and there's something new being presented? Doesn't want to listen. Number 2 of the swords. Don't want to hear. Don't want to understand. That defensiveness is carried through lightly, like a very easy one would be 9 of Wands, where I have my ideas. I'm not going to listen to anybody. Forget it. And so what begins to happen is when we begin on that road of what appears like simple resistance to someone's idea, concept, or whether we're not going to accept it, develops. Now, it develops in such a way that very often it puts us in not a very good place. And there's some lines here that I'm going to show you. One of them is, as we resist, we make up our own stories. This is our imagination. We're lost in our imagination. Notice he's dressed in black. So what begins to happen there is we move into our own emotional states, which the moon is showing that the emotions are working, and we end up all tied up emotionally and confused. Now, these are not necessarily in order. They're just, I was trying to figure out the patterns of things. Now, when we resist, and that's what non-acceptance is, resistance of someone's idea, we do this, like the King of Swords. Oh, I'll listen to you, but I'm not going to shift anything. And what ends up with us is we end up feeling sad and depressed because we're not being listened to. The persons whose ideas are there and they're listening to them. It gets worse. We end up feeling out in the cold. We end up feeling sad and depressed, not knowing what to do. We end up, again, sad, depressed, can't do what we want. And that is because we move away from what is as we carry all so-called our sadness, our grief, because our world is being demolished because they're not, usually it's because somebody is not going along with your ideas. They have other ideas that you do not want to accept. Now, this can be on a very small scale, on a very large scale, depending. But no matter what, don't think I put this one up yet. We blow things up out of proportion, imagination all over the place. And when that happens, the run of this is great. We again get lost in our own sense of being, of where we are and what we're doing. We get so tied up in our own emotions that we're not seeing, we're not hearing, we're not going anywhere. We're just locked into not wanting to accept. And there's another confusion card a little further down. These two are very similar. Hang on, let's see if I can get them both going the wrong way. These two are very, very similar. One is number 6. One is number 15, which is another higher order of 6. That's what I love about these when we get doing the number things on them. Gets even more complicated. When we resist, I'm going to show you resistance symbols. When we resist, we get determined on our idea is it. We get confused. We just don't want to listen to anything. So confusion reigns. Because we'll try to be logical. Our way is the best way. No, I don't want to take that. That's not correct. And what ends up happening, we end up not seeing anything. We don't know where we are. We've got all these ideas. We've got theirs, and we just get more and more stubborn, actually, and more resistance because we just don't want to listen. And then we overreact. How many times have we got into arguments with people, really heated ones, because their ideas did not work? And that all starts when we don't want to be listening, we don't want to be open. We just have an attitude of my way or the highway. Now, there's times when we get resistance, yes. But what ends up happening, I'm just still getting my symbols organized here. They're all over the place. When we get hurt, very often when we don't accept, it's because for some reason it hurts us somewhere. Is the idea that's being presented so hard to bear, so hard to look at? And we don't say, oh, I just can't get my head around that. Like, in other words, we leave logic and we go into pain and we get hurt. And when we get hurt, what ends up often happening, it grows and grows and grows till all we are is sad. And we don't know the way out. The way out is actually in the symbol is in the covering that's got her. But even in some ways, a lesser degree, it gets more complicated. We then move into defense. Your idea is against my idea. So arguments, sometimes withdrawal with that, which is more like this one, because look at the arms and legs on this one. Idea is being presented. They're saying, nope, I'm doing it this way. Arm and legs totally folded up, not wanting to listen to look at the new or different idea. You know, ideas are interesting things. I mean, if you don't look at them, I know it's very easy when you got an investment in an idea or a sense of where and what. It's very easy not wanting to listen to someone else's idea that says that won't work. When I was creating a different way of reading tarot, can't do that. It's been written forever. Well, I'm a psychological reader. I read psychologically. and at that time, I wrote my first book, in 79, I think. Is that it was a different perspective. And it's like now, of course, the majority of readers are psychological, but in the beginning it was like, oh, you read like that? Yeah, I do. I read like that. And so people were like very much like this. You can't do that. This is not the way it's done. Well, it was the way I was done because I kept getting it that way. Now, the key is the answer always lies within you. You have the answer. No matter what, you have the answer. And that's the key. So now let's take a look at what we can do to make some shifts and changes. First of all, we're going to go this, I think, this way. First of all, I've got a couple of other symbols here that talk about issues. Hang on. Let me see. Yeah. First of all, as long as we're blowing things up out of proportion in our own mind, in other words, not based on reality, you're having difficulties. And nothing will work. It will just keep throwing you out into the dark. Have you ever tried to convince somebody of something? I know I constantly am trying to convince people. And sometimes I go away after and thinking, I don't think I did a good job of that. I didn't say the words appropriate to have them shift their ideas or whatever. You carry your stuff. You carry what you believe, what you think, what you feel. So you're not communicating. You just carry it. I'm right, And all you end up here is feeling lost. Not where, if you look at the symbol, she's all bound up with all these swords, which are the problems, and the castle of dreams is behind her, and the river of life is a few muddy puddles. That's what happens when we begin isolating because we know we're right. Even if you know you are right, you stay open and communicate. The moment you go into defense, to defend, justify, prove that you're right and they're wrong, you're in trouble. And that's why to just be able to accept and sometimes say, I understand where you're at, I just have a different viewpoint, but you don't do it angrily or defensively. You just do it and say it, because otherwise you end up here, sad. And it says, turn around and look at what's available. Change. Because otherwise you end up out in the cold. When we get really strong on a subject, and I had to learn how, not to get like that about some of the concepts and ideas that I had, you've got to be able to be open to what other people perceive and think rather than defend and justify. See, it's even with this. Sometimes you just have to turn away from what is, but use your strength, your purpose of direction of where you're heading. Acceptance is throughout the tarot. Some very specific symbols talk about that. I'm looking at which way to go here. Let's talk about this. This is my favorite symbol anyway. This is acceptance of what is. This is acceptance of this love force. This is the acceptance of the philosophy of life. This is the acceptance and life overflows. Change of attitude, knowing you're connected. And see this little symbol up here? It's the connection of the spirit and the body. So it's like changing perception. So if someone doesn't agree with you, maybe to look at their perception makes a little bit of a difference. And now we come to I guess I can move into acceptance. Two major symbols in the tarot are about acceptance. Number 12, the law of acceptance, as I call it, the hanged man hanging there. His nimbus is around his head, shows he's at peace. Sometimes one has to accept a person's never going to see the way you have. I was going to say ever be married. Whenever you're married, you find that two different ideas. And what happens? You just accept and you come to some resolutions, which we're going to talk about soon. The other one was number 20, which is getting way down into the journey. When you look at this step by step as a spiritual journey, the acceptance of what this is about, acceptance of the spirit, that the force that's there, this love force, finally, it's like finally accepting that exists. And it's like knowing, no matter what, the religionists talk about this, that all is forgiven. That do we forgive ourselves? We screw up. I've messed up so many times in my life. Sometimes it's like, oh, wow, I look back and I go, oh, yeah, I really did that. But we have to forgive ourselves first. It's not about someone else forgiving us. It's about us forgiving and coming to peace on the inside. So very often what happens when we're going to do that is we begin to take a look at what actually has occurred. This is another little page, which is an attitude, where something unexpected jumps up. And very often that's the beginning of non-acceptance, actually. We listen to what others have to say. We listen to the advice. We listen to experience, because our elders definitely have experience. The young are always out looking to see what, but if you listen to some of the elder advice, you'll find there's usually a lot of philosophy in there. So this is someone who's building, as you can see, a spiritual place, and the minister, priest, or whatever you want to call it, and the architect, as I always think the one that's dressed gaily is the architect because they're holding the plans, is they're discussing it. There's no angst. It's just a matter of it's not, whatever it is isn't definitive yet. What happens to a lot of us when we're trying to resolve something is we get so far and then we stop. We don't complete it. We don't finish it. This is about finishing. And we sit, and this is a procrastinator attitude, we sit and we look at and we wonder. It's better to be going step by step in order to have a resolution than just to sit there and just wonder how it's going to be. What we want, to a large degree, is about change. These are ideas that are coming in. There's a lot of ideas out there. People have different viewpoints, different experiences, and a lot of them are floating around. But in this one, if it's in a reading, this just shows that a lot of new ideas are coming in. And that can be very, very good, but it also can be, depending what's around it, not always so good. This is moving ahead. Victory is assured. You've got your ideas. Everything's all moving ahead. That's where we want to be. So we want to be accepting what's happening and going on. And that means sometimes turning your back on the old, where you were, how you were, and realizing through balance, see the front, the black and the white, through balance, you can move forward and deal with the things that come up, because you have the inner strength, the inner connection, the inner awareness. And that brings transformation. Death symbol is about transforming. We know that's one inevitability for each one of us on this planet at some point or other. And what do? We transcend. We transcend over it. So if you're dealing with an issue around accepting things as they are, then this is very important, because you're needing to transcend beyond. Because life is always full of changes. This is what this symbol is. Number 10 is a 1. And I don't know what, in the beginning, there is the magician, number 1, that says everything is possible. You aspire above to bring the energy below, but then it has the 4 suits on the plate. You've got everything at your disposal. Now, the next one is this one, number 10. Because you've gone through all the other, up to the higher arcana. If we're looking at the higher arcana, that's all we're looking at, is all from 1 to 9, all these different experiences. Now here's 10. What happens here at 10? Because life is not usually too sluggish. There's something happening. Even when you think, oh, I've built my little cocoon, everything is fine, something else happens. This is always talks about being like the hub of the wheel. In other words, knowing your base. I'll go back to the Empress again, the love source, knowing what you really stand for. So no matter what comes up in your life, because believe me, even when you think everything is solid and everything is fine, something will something will come into your life that can throw you emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically. As we know, fires down in California, etc. That we have other things up here. Is we have fires in the summer. So we know a lot about fire. So change. How do we handle change? How do we handle when people that we know all of a sudden have an inspirational change and all of a sudden they're very different? They have different viewpoints, different ideas, etc. We have to recognize that something touches them. This is the Hierophant where you learn spiritual matters. And sometimes, and I've had this happen, when all of a sudden some person I've been teaching all of a sudden has a rejection of everything because they've become a Christian and Jesus is the way. And I accept that. If that's the way they want to go, that's fine. So, but it's like what they do then is, in a way, is reject everything I've said and done, which I don't come from that place of doing that. I want people to be aware of their power, of the love that's there for them, that how they can resolve issues very easily. This symbol I'm going to show you is an attitude, and it was, and maybe I can still say it is me sometimes. I lived with this attitude. This is the Queen of Wands, and see this little black cat in front here? Because of that little black cat, which is fear, she does not look at her idea or where she's heading. She looks away from it. It took me years to realize how fearful I was. Nobody thought I was fearful. But when I look back, I missed many opportunities because I was fearful of response. So even when we think we may understand a lot of things, very often there's still fear that runs. And when ideas are presented to you that conflict, or say, hey, you just go along and talk to these people, because then you can go, and it's your fear says, no, I don't want to do that. That means you're not accepting possibilities that are there for you. That's what we want. We want you to be in command of your life and your emotion and your understanding. We want you to shine as the star of the beingness of who you are. We want you to be able to go forward in life with, it brings tears to my eyes actually, with strength and purpose and awareness, like the sun, that you embrace every situation with joy and love and knowing, so that you can bring your life into total accord, balance, and everything is in its right place as you've integrated all the things. And knowing, as I began with the Empress of Love, the love force is a part of you, however you perceive that. Names don't matter. There's just so many different religions with so many different names. If it gives you peace, if it gives you harmony, if it gives you a sense of being able to accept things and move into your potential to create peace and harmony within yourself, and somewhere in there was the star. That's where you learn how to manage your energy. And for those that watch Mental Mind Treatments on Monday, you see many times people pick number 17, because it's all about how much energy you're giving out and how much do you keep yourself. That is what the important element is. You get to choose, where do you put your energy? Where do you put that lovingness of you? What do you do and what you don't do? And that's why so often I talk about acceptance of what is. You can't change what is or what has happened. What you change is the inner perspective. What you change is recognize your growth patterning until you can accept things. Why do we reject them? It sort of said that. Because we want it our way. And is your way really any better than anybody else's way? It's how you feel, how you are when you sit in judgment on another, even yourself, and especially yourself. All you're doing is just creating hassle for your life. I really, looking at all, if you could see me yesterday with all the, even today, like piles of cards trying to make sense, I wanted to have a sense, because I knew it was in there, because I read all the time for not only myself, but for others. And I knew that it brings a sense of awareness. So when you find yourself balking, you know, I don't know if that's where that fits. Just accept that's where that person is. Just accept that they've found what they want or do, even if you don't believe. And actually, if you can discuss without emotion, sometimes it can be very enlightening. It's the emotional quotient of defense. You know, we used to say, my way or the highway, that stubborn streak. But it's like really fear, and being able to bring that under understanding and work through those elements that bring forth. So I'm trusting that even though the old word acceptance is going to come up, I'm sure, it's about balance. It's about realizing there is a power that works, no matter what you call it. You know, people have different religions, have different names for that power. Trustingly, the name represents the love force, the lovingness, the understanding, and with love is acceptance. If you love someone, you accept them for who they are. Unfortunately, what happens, many people love someone and they want to change them. That's not what love is. Love is acceptance. And acceptance means acceptance of yourself and whatever's happening for anybody else that you encounter. And so, therefore, today, where am I? Yeah, I'm going to change this here. I had so many cards pulled out, I had missed my little thing that's able to turn things off. So, therefore, it is today. I just want to say, Karen B., good morning to you. Diego, he says, oh, food for thought. Good. And Karen B., again, thank you for your words of wisdom. I'm glad that you think that, because I had fun yesterday playing with all my cards, putting them into bodies of everything else. Oh, and Melanie comes in. I very often, when I'm coming off, and I want to always thank people, she says, thanks for sharing all your knowledge. I found one of your books at a garage sale 30 years ago, and so began my journey with tarot. It has been one of my most meaningful resources on my path. Thank you. Thank you. I'm presuming I've had 3 up there, but the first one, Tarot for Successful Living, was distributed. So yes, we sold a lot of those. Then I had Exploring the Patterns of the Tarot, which I still have hardcover copies of those. And then I wrote another one too. I almost forget the name of that. Melody says, I will buy it again. Yeah, I send out the Tarot for Successful Living, which is a very basic book, and it works. It really does. And the third one, which name has kind of left my head, which is really crazy, but in PDF form. But go to my website. All that information is on the website. And hang on a minute. Oh, and Karen B says, so will I. So go to the website, normacowie.com. There's information on there, what's available and what isn't. And you can email me through there very, very easily. And I look forward to that. Blessings. I'm tuning off for sure this time. See you on Sunday. Bye now.